there. Welcome, everyone. Nice to speak with you today. My name is Ellen Crocker, and I'm an extension faculty at the University of Kentucky. So I do forest health extension, so talking with landowners, forest industry, and others about their trees and forests and the health of it, which is, I think, a really great connection to a lot of what we're talking about. How do you connect some of this to kind of a broader audience? And Abdullah do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. My name is Abdullah. I work with the University of Tennessee with Dr. Meg Staten, and I'm the lead developer on TreeSnap and Wildtype, which we'll talk about a little bit.
Yeah, so Abdullah, I know you're going to be able to talk a lot about kind of the mobile applications of this and kind of everything that runs it. How does all of this work? And I'm really interested in kind of like, how does this get to the users, those people who are out there looking for some of these trees? And so hopefully we'll talk about both of those things today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So my plan is to give a brief introduction to TreeSnap, something that we created a while ago to kind of connect citizen scientists, community scientists, people who are really passionate about trees, and the researchers who want that information. And we're going to talk about TreeSnap and give that as an example. And then I'll turn it over to Abdullah, who will talk a little bit more, walk through a demo using TreeSnap, and potentially talk about some other mobile applications as well. So with that, hopefully you all can see this. Can you see my screen and the slide?
Looks good.
Excellent. All right. So the first question you might have is, what is TreeSnap? Well, hopefully not. Hopefully you have TreeSnap already downloaded on your phone and you're an avid user. But if you're not, just a little bit of background on what is TreeSnap. So we created TreeSnap as a mobile app and a website to facilitate connections to citizen scientists, to kind of facilitate research on tree species, particularly those that are threatened by different invasive insects and diseases. At least that was the thought going into it, although it's really grown since then to a lot of different uses. The kind of target audience for TreeSnap was people who are really passionate about trees, as well as the scientists who are researching those trees. And the thought being that this could be used anywhere, that there's a combination of two things: an active research project that's going to actually use the data that's being collected, as well as researchers who are engaging members of the public, non-scientists in their data collection. So those are kind of the two key things that we envisioned for TreeSnap when we thought about who would be using this app. And it's got these kind of two components that Abdullah is going to talk with you more about shortly. But first, you've got the mobile app, and you use that to, oh, I think we've got somebody with their microphone on. If you haven't muted it, maybe do that. So the mobile app, submitting observations, this can be photos, location, answers to questions that the researchers who submitted these trees and are looking at the data want to know about. And this can work offline as well, which is really important because, many of these trees grow in places where you may not have access to great internet. So something that would be a very reliable tool to collect that data away from internet and then upload it later. And then a website, treesnap.org, that you can check out, where you can keep track of your observations and share those with others. There are different levels of user permissions to kind of sort through what scientists have access to, while also protecting the privacy of people's data. Scientists can organize and curate and download data really easily, and also reach out to people if they have questions or want more information. So Abdullah and Meg did a really fantastic job with that and made it easy for me, since I know nothing about the programming side of things, and really just wanted an app that worked well, that the landowners that I worked with that are seeing these kinds of things could easily collect data with. And also kind of want to recognize those who were involved in the creation of this app. So myself, Bert Abbott, and Dana Nelson, who Dana's with the USDA Forest Service, and the Forest Health Research and Education Center. and I'm at the University of Kentucky, also with the Forest Health Research and Education Center. Kind of worked with some of the partners and developed some of the content and framework for this initial app, although again, it has grown leaps and bounds since then. And of course, Dr. Staten, Abdullah Almasaeed, and then Bradford Cotton and Joseph West as well for their work on the app with the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And this was all funded with an NSF Plant Genome Research Program grant. So just wanted to recognize that and those partners there. But to give you an idea of how TreeSnap kind of was created and works, we have lots of different scientific partners. You could be one of them, and if you are, it's great, great to have you on today, or maybe you could be in the future. But these are people who have a tree that they're working with. They are working with members of the public to collect data about it, and just want an easier way to do that. So we started out with many trees in the eastern US, but it's branched out a lot since then, working with a wide range of partners, many of whom are researchers, but many of whom are already doing some of this kind of community science work. And you can also collect data on other trees for other projects. We leave it pretty open-ended. So while we've got these profile species that are working with us kind of on defined projects that have tree species that they're collecting data on that's going to a scientific purpose, and they're actively engaging the community in collecting that data, you can also use it for other things as well. So just to give you an example of how this kind of improved the past sampling method, one of our key partners is the American Chestnut Foundation. So prior to TreeSnap, they had, of course, a really engaged community out there looking for American chestnut trees in the woods. And these are trees that in our area, for the most part, were wiped out by chestnut blight, but you can still find some. And for a variety of reasons, people want to know their locations. So they had a paper submission system where you could kind of report a tree and collect information on it and mail it in and mail kind of all this information in. And so now, instead of doing that, they have a really easy to use app that can collect a lot of the same information and also asks people to send in a physical sample as well for, complete certainty on whether or not that's American chestnut or something else. So we'll walk you through that procedure quickly, and then Abdullah will go into more detail on that. So instead of having that whole paper form, now you can just use the TreeSnap app. You choose your tree, in this case, American chestnut. You can record that tree's locations and characteristics. In the case of chestnut, it's all things that the American Chestnut Foundation cared about. Does it have chestnut blight symptoms? Is it producing nuts? A range of different questions. How large is it? But each one of those is specific to the tree. And you can see that that form's pretty easy to answer in the app and works offline. And then if people have questions, they can also learn a little bit more. What does it look like? What are those blight symptoms? That kind of thing through the app itself. Now, I think where it really is powerful is on the website end of things, because then people can go online and get way more information than just the observations they've collected. So they can see their observations, but they can also see other people's observations and set specific parameters as well. So this is a project I was working on where I wanted to see, where have people reported that this species, where is it coming from? And I could quickly scan through that information. You can work with partnering scientists to curate data and to manage sampling teams and to develop collections that then you can share with different groups of observations. So let's say I'm in my chestnuts to watch or some other species, can easily kind of sort those and keep track of them. And then there's some really nice advanced filtering options in there that actually let you kind of set up a reminder or a notification anytime someone submits a sample that could be of interest to you. So who's using TreeSnap right now? Currently, we have over 9,492 registered users, registered users and 14,000 observations. And so something to note about that is that this is not like uniform all over the country necessarily. You can see that the vast majority of those observations are, unsurprisingly, coming from the states that we're located in. So Kentucky has a lot of reported observations, Tennessee, North Carolina, but they really can come from all over. Anywhere that the scientists that we're partnering with are really actively engaging the members of the community that are sampling. And I think that's really key. Another thing to note is that while we have, over 9,000 users, we only have around 1,800 active users. So that's people who've submitted observations. And you might wonder, what's that discrepancy? Why aren't there more active users? Well, a lot of the things we want to know about are pretty rare. You might not see a chestnut all the time in the woods or any of these other species that we're looking for. But another kind of key thing that I think is useful for you all to think about as scientists interested in kind of engaging in this community science is that what it really translates to is that you have a few individuals who are extremely committed and extremely engaged. So if we look at our leaderboard for TreeSnap, we have, a few people who've submitted a lot of observations. They are, our TreeSnap all-stars. So while anybody could use TreeSnap, they are out there really, really engaged in it. And so a special shout out to Ken Darnell here, who submitted over 900 observations, mostly of American chestnut. He's the president of our Kentucky chapter of the American Chestnut Association and is really passionate about getting out there and looking for those and really likes to use this app to facilitate that. So, which are the species that have been collected? The majority are chestnut, and I think that's kind of unexpected because, chestnut should be kind of rare, right? There's not that many of them out there in America. Kind of in our woods, they've mostly been removed, but they're still out there. We have a lot of them that have been reported. We have a fair amount of other trees, so just other species that people have reported and found and want to use for their own research purposes. Other species like white oak and ash make up a good portion too. So a few tips if you want to start a citizen science project with TreeSnap, and Abdullah will expand on this as well, but a few things that we've noticed that I just wanted to kind of lay the foundation on is that we really encourage people to think about TreeSnap as a great tool in the toolbox, but not a one-stop shop. So where we've seen this work best is where our scientist partners have really actively engaged a community, and they use TreeSnap as a data collection tool versus expecting just having their tree on TreeSnap result in lots of new submissions. Especially if you're working with something that's not that common, people might not know to submit it on TreeSnap all the time. And so if you're actively engaging a group, that's a great way to use it. So engage your communities in your project. This is tricky because it involves some time investment, of course, and not just kind of once on the front end, but a continuous thing. So you're going to want to engage the community you're working with early and often. At the beginning of the project, like update them with results. What are they collecting? What are they seeing? How are you using that data? Those are kind of just some general best practices for doing this kind of thing, and especially with TreeSnap, because I think it's easy for people to submit something and then not feel like it necessarily goes anywhere. So seeing you're using their information is really important. Relatedly, if you're asking them to collect something that's really complicated, that's going to be hard and discouraging versus really simple protocols. And with all of our partners in TreeSnap so far, we've made a point to work with them to collect things that would be easy for anyone to do. Quality control is another common point. There's no guarantee that what somebody is taking a picture of in TreeSnap is actually the species they think it is. It might be something else entirely. And with chestnut, we do see that a bit. And that's just part of it. That's part of the whole, community science approach. But I think the simpler your protocols, and if you have a way to deal with some of that, you'll be happier using data collected from TreeSnap or any other kind of community science center. So back to our kind of overall observations, just to give you a couple examples of that. With American chestnut, we have 5,750 observations there, and that's a lot. But I think that that stems from the fact that we've got, you know, a lot of people out there looking, and we've got this really engaged group of people who wants to find American chestnut. So to give you some examples, the American Chestnut Foundation, you know, regularly offered trainings in using TreeSnap, different kind of in-person trainings, remote trainings. They publish about it in their magazine for their group. And here's a training the Kentucky chapter learned about TreeSnap. Just earlier this month, I went out with Ken Darnell, that person that I showed you that had the most TreeSnap observations. And we went out in the woods and found some chestnut together. And you can see that this video that we took already has, you know, over 1,000 views in just a couple weeks of them getting out and doing that. And I think that speaks to the reason why we have so many chestnut observations is because they've really been able to motivate that group and have a really engaged group of people out there looking. Another kind of a thing related to that is when somebody does submit a tree that doesn't look like chestnut, the importance of having someone go through there and flag that, you know, this doesn't look like American chestnut, this looks like Chinese chestnut. We'll need more pictures of the leaves to confirm. That's not something that's going to automatically happen and does require someone going back through and doing that quality control. Just one more example of kind of, I think, successful engagement of communities via TreeSnap is with the White Oak Project, which is a little newer. And this is one where, you know, we started TreeSnap thinking about trees that were being really decimated by invasive insects and diseases. And with white oak, Quercus alba, that's not necessarily the case, but there still is this active breeding program trying to better understand the diversity of what's out there on the landscape and breed better trees. And so kind of using TreeSnap as the tool, but reaching out to master naturalist groups across the country and asking them to collect samples, observe them with TreeSnap, mail them in, and creating, you know, social media, a Facebook page with regular updates about how things are doing, I think really adds to kind of the excitement and the capacity there. So with that, I want to turn things over to Abdullah, who's going to walk you through TreeSnap as well as talk with you about some other things.
Thank you, Ellen. All right, I'll do a quick live demo of the mobile app, TreeSnap, and show you kind of the administrative interfaces we've built for scientists on TreeSnap as well. So the app is available in the App Store and the Play Store on Android. Anyone can download it. And when you first open it, you're immediately presented with this list of trees that are of interest to us. Each one of these trees, we have a partner who designed the questions as, you know, and are interested in the information collected with TreeSnap. This list is also automatically filtered based on your current location. As you can imagine, there could be lots and lots of trees, but the app will automatically know where you are and will present you with a list of trees where, you know, it's most likely you're going to find that tree in that location. But you can click show all to kind of see the entire list of trees. And we always have an option for other at the bottom if the tree you're interested in is not listed. So if I click on the American chestnut tree, we're presented with a form. This form, again, is designed by the people who need information for American chestnut. We have a tab on the right here that gives you information about each tree, some ID photos to help you identify it. We also have distribution maps for each tree showing you where it's most likely to be available. We also just list out information about why are we interested in this tree, in addition to having some instructions if you need samples mailed in or specific ways to take pictures, anything like that will go in the information tab. So I'm going to go through the fields real quick in American chestnut just to show how easy it is to take an observation, even though this is the biggest form we have in the app, but you still can get through it fairly quickly. So to start, I'm going to take a picture of the laptop because I don't have an American chestnut in my house. So that's the photo. The next question is nuts and burrs, and I'm just going to specify now catkins absent. chestnut blight. And what's important here is that we have this show examples link. So if something could be a little complicated for people to understand, you can always include pictures to show you what that looks like so that you can inspect the tree and be able to answer the question accurately. Next question. Tree diameter. This allows you to either measure the tree and specify an accurate measurement, or you can say, I only estimated this to be 50 inches. I'm not entirely sure. The tree height, similarly, you can add an estimate. So from here, there's a few interesting things that happened while we're filling out the form. One of which is that your information is automatically attached to this observation now. So we know who submitted it. The date and time when this happened is also attached to this observation. And finally, the GPS coordinates at the bottom. It automatically tried its best to collect the coordinates as accurate as possible. And even though I'm inside a building right now, it managed with my phone to get an accuracy of 4 meters. So if you come back to visit this location, you're going to be within 4 meters of that tree. However, sometimes phones fail to collect GPS coordinates. An old phone, or perhaps GPS is broken. You are allowed to come in here and add it manually if you have the information through a different device. In addition to that, we have a field called tree identifier, and we put that in all of our trees. The reason is that if you are collecting samples, we imagine that you're going to print out some barcodes, tape them onto the bags that you want to put the samples in. And then when you go out on the field, you will collect the information, take a sample, put it in that bag, and then scan that barcode on the bag to associate this record with the samples. And we accept about 14 different types of barcodes, and it's really quick to scan one. You're allowed to associate multiple identifiers. So if you have many samples from one tree, you don't have to collect the information again and again for every set of samples. You can just associate it by clicking add another ID. So that's it. Once you submit it, it shows you where it was submitted, gives you some instructions for each particular tree, and it allows you to upload it. But sometimes you're out in the woods and you don't have internet. So you can say, I'll upload this later when I go back. And it will send you a notification within 24 hours if you haven't submitted it yet, reminding you to upload it. And when you come in, you'll see this big yellow button that says, click here to upload. And once I upload, it goes to the website. In the app as well, you can view your own observations, like the observations you took using this particular device. You can sort it by date or by distance from you. And if you click on it, it'll give you all the information you've collected. You can also share observations. And a big point about TreeSnap is that we try our best to protect your privacy and the privacy of the trees. Some trees are valuable and you might not want them accurately represented on the public website. So when you share an observation, we do allow you to share to choose whether you want to share the accurate location or not. And when you choose it, you can send it through whatever app you'd like. That will send a link to the person you're sharing it with, and they'll be able to access this information as well. So from here, you can also see your observations on a map. So if you're out in the woods, and this does work offline as long as you downloaded the map beforehand, and you'll be able to go in the woods near that tree and see it represented in comparison to your location. So that's a quick overview of the mobile app. On the website, once you access it, there's a big list of features, but one of the most important ones is the map. It allows you to view all of the observations that anyone has collected. And I'll do a quick note that this doesn't just work in the US. Even though it's focused on the US, it does work, it does work outside of the US the same way. It definitely can be used anywhere. But the map allows you to zoom in over here. Allows you to view individual observations by clicking on it. You can see the information about the tree when it was collected, who collected it, and all of that. You'll be able to save it into a collection. You can create a collection of whatever trees you're interested in, and that will allow you later to download the information from that collection. You can view the images for each one. And you can also filter it down. If you're only interested in American chestnut, you'll click American chestnut and that'll remove everything else. You can search by particular people. So if I search for Ken, it will show me observations from Ken in Tennessee currently. If I zoom out in Kentucky, there will be probably a lot more. You can also, there are advanced filters. So if you're interested in American chestnut again, you'll select American chestnut. And depending on what questions are presented in the app, you'll be able to filter by the answers to those questions on the website. So if I select, whatever answers I want must be present to show me that tree, I get to later name my filter AC, no, not /burrs. If I apply that and save it, it will automatically filter it, and I get to come back later and apply that filter. Another nice feature with the advanced filters is the ability to get notifications when anything gets submitted that matches that filter. I'm interested in American chestnuts and American beech with specific traits. Once I set all of that up, I say notify me, and it will send me an email every time someone submits those trees. We try our best to not annoy you with emails, so we'll send you no more than 3 emails per week. But this is a good feature if you're working on an active project. And then finally, I'm going to take you through the admin interface. If you are a scientist and you can contact us to get access to this. Not everyone has access to this, obviously, but once you do, you'll be able to have a quick overview of our users, the observations submitted, the trees, the states. You'll also be able to view every individual state, and this is the observation I just submitted. You can filter it down, and finally, you can even download it. So if I select cacao, which there are 6 of, and I click download, it will give it to me as CSV format, so I can use it in my study or display it in custom maps. And everything that's collected for that tree is listed in the CSV. I think we talked about most things with TreeSnap. Take just a couple of minutes to show you what Wildtype is. So Wildtype is kind of like an evolved form of TreeSnap. It allows you to create your own study regardless of what the object you're collecting is. So it could be trees, could be bugs, it could be anything you're interested in. What it would allow you to do is create a project, give us a little bit of information about that project, and it will allow you to create a form that then becomes available on a mobile app. So your users can download the project on the mobile app, and they'll have the questions that you designed. It will allow them to take pictures. It will automatically collect location information and associate it with the user submitting it. The app works completely offline. It's completely private. If you manage a private study that you don't want anyone to ever see, you can mark it as private. You can allow people to join your project, by finding it on the site, or you can make it invitation only, so no one can access it unless you invite them. And of course, this has a lot of benefits. It gives you automatic data validation, make sure that your data is consistent, as opposed to paper form or Excel sheets where data does not necessarily come in as clean. It will help you analyze your data by giving you charts and graphs that are automated. And because it works offline, you'll be able to use it in fields. This project is currently still under development, and we are looking for funding to continue developing it. It is, I'm not going to say beta yet. We have not released it, but soon enough, we'll try to release it and get scientists to try it out. If you're interested in trying this project, please do reach out to us. And I believe that's our time. Thank you all.